Every few months, a headline comes out saying the auto market is either crashing or booming. And every few months, I get the same worried messages from people who read it. So today, I'm going to show you what the headlines leave out. And by the end, you'll be able to read any market headline yourself and know exactly what it's not telling you. I understand why you're anxious. Buying or selling a home is probably one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. And when the headlines swing wildly from month to month, it's normal to feel like the ground is moving under you. It's a genuinely confusing time to make sense of this stuff, and I don't want to pretend otherwise. Not even for a second. By the way, I'm glad you're here. My name's Curtis, and I'm a real estate agent with Lepage right here in Ottawa. And each day I help buyers and sellers like you navigate the largest financial transaction of their lives. My contact info is on the screen now, and it's in the description below this video. Here's the first thing headlines almost never tell you. The Ottawa market isn't one market. It's dozens of smaller markets stacked together. Condos downtown behave completely differently than detached homes in the suburbs. A headline that says prices are falling might be entirely true for one segment and completely wrong for another in the very same month, sometimes in neighborhoods just a few kilometers from each other. The second thing, headlines love a dramatic percentage. Prices down 12%, but down from what and compared to when? A lot of these numbers compare against an unusually high point from a couple years back, which makes a normal correction look like a collapse. I always tell people, ask what the comparison point actually is before you react to the number. Once you know the baseline, the scary headline often turns into a pretty ordinary story. The third thing, average price and median price tell you very different stories, and most headlines don't specify which one they're using. If 5 multi-million-dollar homes sell in a month, the average can spike even if nothing changed for a typical family home. This isn't anyone lying to you. It's just how averages work, and it gets left out constantly because average price up makes a cleaner headline than more complicated truth underneath it. The fourth thing worth understanding is the days on market. This one number tells you more about the real temperature of the market than almost anything else. When homes are sitting for 60, 70, 80 days, that's a buyer's market, plain and simple. When good homes are gone in a week, that favors sellers. Watch this number over the flashy percentage changes because it reacts more honestly and it's much harder for anyone to spin. Fifth, interest rates get blamed for everything and they do matter, but they're not the whole story either. I've seen rate environments where buyers pulled back completely, and I've seen almost identical rate environments where demand stayed steady because confidence was different. Rates affect what people can afford. They don't fully explain what people are willing to do, and headlines often treat those two things as if they're exactly the same when they're really not. I also want to touch on new construction because it quietly changes everything. When a lot of new homes are being built in a certain area or a price range, that adds supply, which naturally softens price growth there, even if the rest of the city looks completely different. If you're watching a specific neighborhood, it's worth knowing what's being built nearby because that can shift the picture more than any citywide headline ever will. So what's actually true right now in plain terms? Inventory has been building in some segments, which gives buyers a bit more breathing room and a bit more negotiating power than a couple years ago. At the same time, well-priced homes in good condition are still moving quickly because good homes are always in demand in any market. It's not hot and it's not crashing. It's more selective than it's been in a while, and that rewards preparation over speed. If you're a buyer, that means you likely have more time to make a good decision than the headline suggests. You don't have to panic in an offer just because a headline made it sound urgent. If you're a seller, it means presentation and pricing matter more than they did a few years ago because buyers have options again and they're actually using them instead of settling for the first thing they see. And I also want to say this because I think it gets lost. Markets are made of thousands of individual decisions, not one big collective mood. Your specific street, your specific home, your specific timing matters more to the outcome than any citywide number ever will. A citywide headline can be true and still have almost nothing to do with what happens in your particular block or your particular street. Now let's talk about what a balanced market actually means because it gets thrown around constantly without explanation. In simple terms, it's the ratio of homes selling to new homes coming onto the market. When the ratio tilts heavily toward the more sales and listings, sellers have the advantage. When listings pile up faster than they sell, buyers have the advantage. Most of the time, the market sits somewhere in the middle, and the middle ground doesn't make for an exciting headline, even though it's where things actually are more often than not. The rental market matters too, more than people expect. When rent climbs quickly, some renters get pushed towards buying sooner than planned, which adds demand to the resale market. When rents soften, that pressure eases. If you're trying to understand where resale might head, keeping half an eye on the rental market and the market gives you an early signal most headlines never mention at all. Ottawa also has a factor a lot of cities don't, a large, fairly stable base of government and tech employment. And that doesn't mean this market never dips. It clearly has and clearly will again, but it tends to soften than extreme swings you see in other cities depending on a single volatile industry. It's also part of why boom and crash headlines about Ottawa often overstate what actually happens here compared to more dramatic markets elsewhere. Let's take a quick trip back in time for perspective because context helps here. Anyone who's followed this market for more than a decade has seen it move through slow years, fast years, and everything in between. And every single time, the same panic and the same excitement show up in the headlines. What's different in each cycle is the specific numbers. What's the same is how people react to them, often more emotionally than the actual data would justify. If you want one number to actually watch monthly, instead of getting pulled around by headlines, I'd pick new listings versus homes sold. Right here in your specific price range and area, not the citywide average. That comparison, tracked over a few months, tells you far more about your actual situation than any national headline about Canadian real estate ever will. There's one last distinction worth knowing. Pre-construction and resale really are two different markets wearing the same name. Pre-construction pricing gets set by builders based on their own costs and targets, while resale pricing gets set by actual buyers and sellers negotiating in real time. A headline about one doesn't necessarily tell you anything relatable about the other, even though they often get blended together in the same article. Seasonality also gets misread too. Every single year, activity slows in December and picks back up in the spring, and every single year, someone writes a headline treating that completely normal, predictable pattern as brand new evidence of some larger market shift happening in the market. If you see a headline in the dead of the winter about the market cooling, ask yourself honestly whether that's a real trend or that's just what happens every December, without fail, like clockwork. I'd also gently push back on the idea that you need to take time to market perfectly at all. I've watched people wait 2 years for the perfect moment to buy only to find themselves in a moment that never announces itself clearly in advance. The families who do well tend to buy when it's right for their life and let the broader market do whatever it's going to do around them, rather than trying to outguess something that even the professionals watching it daily can't predict with real precision. I know none of this is as dramatic as a scary headline, but dramatic headlines get clicks and clear information helps you make a decision you won't regret. That's the trade I'd rather make with you every single time, even if it means this video was a little less exciting than the headline that probably brought you here in the first place. If you ever see a headline about this market and you're not sure what it actually means for you, send it my way. I'll give you an honest read, no agenda attached. Hope this helped clear a few things up.